lost my best friend to 23. She left her body and hovered above me. I saw no shadow, I looked around, searched every building and home that I found. I saw no shadow, but felt the glow. The warmth inside me, it kept me afloat. It felt like heaven had found my bones and gave me comfort when I feel alone. Now you're gone, I'm alone. I guess it's time to get better. Through the pain, I will go alone. If I fall, break my bones, I will scream even louder. 'Cause I'm not dying alone. I lost my best friend to 23. She left her body and hovered above me. Best friend to 23. I heard the heavens crying above me. They gained an angel, I lost a friend. I felt like dying again and again. I went through hell first.
Hello. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you're having a good Monday so far. We have just been getting pummeled by these snowstorms. This is crazy. This is the most it has ever snowed in a school semester that I could think of in a long time, to where it's like it's the most snow I've seen in a lot of winters here. So this is not typical around these parts anymore. I'm doing well. Ready to get started here. So hopefully you did okay with the lab sculpt. So if not, I know Zbrush can be a little bit daunting, but the quick sculpt for the lab, the idea behind that was to just get you comfortable in the software. Today I'm gonna actually really hunker down and work on getting a monster sculpted out for you. I'm going to step by step kind of walk you through all my different thought processes. We may even watch a little video here for a second to show you kind of the idea. But yeah, I kind of could hear that for a second. Now that should be better. Should be better now. That might be a little too loud. How about now? I think that's good now. Okay. Sorry about that. So, the goal for today is to get the monster kind of sculpted out. We may not completely finish it today, but that's okay because we've got a couple weeks here. But we'll sculpt through some stuff. I do have like a YouTube video I want to watch and show to you guys to kind of to kind of show you the idea of ZBrush and how sculpting kind of functions in a way, right? If you've never used real life clay before and sculpted something out of clay, it can be a little bit of a process to realize how ZBrush functions, right? Because Maya in a lot of ways is very mathematical and like, here, let me move this by a certain amount of units, let me rotate it by a certain amount of units, right? Where ZBrush is not that way. ZBrush is a lot of build it up to take it away type of mentality. So I do have a video I want to show, and if I can find it, we'll play it really quick. I kind of show this video a lot because I think it's so cool. One, and it's just really unique in a way to see this process because this is with actual clay. But this kind of gives you the idea of how this type of thing works and functions. So I'm going to try to get this out of here really quick. Okay, let's watch this together. So, this is by a account that does a bunch of sculptures like these. But I kind of want to give you an idea of how this works, right? So they're going to be sculpting Link in this very artsy way, right? No, I'm going to scrap the quiz. So let me do that right now while we're sitting here. But yeah, no quiz today. So yeah, I'm gonna scrap it all together. We haven't had a chance to sit down and do a proper like review, even talk about what's on the quiz. And at this point, like I honestly don't care if we take it or not. It's not that crucial to me. I think this stuff that we're learning in ZBrush is more important than you answering some multiple choice questions. So we are gonna scrap it. Okay, so let's get into this here. So they are building up, obviously here that's a base. No, it won't be together. We'll just completely cancel the quiz. I'll remove it from the Canvas page. We won't take it. And I'll adjust your I will adjust your weights accordingly so that your assignments are weighted more instead of having to take the quiz. So this is with real clay, right? So it's a little bit different than Z, but at the same time, you can see they're doing this mentality of building up. So I'm adding more clay, right? Adding these big chunks of clay using scraper, right? Cutting things away, scraping things away, smoothing out with a spudger. All these different techniques, right? And we have brushes that do very similar things in ZBrush, right? With the ears, He didn't pull the ears out of the body, right? You could kind of assume that he's appending in 2 pieces of clay for these ears, right? And then he didn't love how the lips looked, so he's building them up more and then taking away pieces that he doesn't like. He's kind of appended in all these other pieces of geometry or clay and then building up and taking away, right? This is something that works very similar to how we do it in ZBrush. The eyes are a little different here because this is real world. We don't necessarily have to do this with the eyes. We can paint in that detail. But building in these big chunks to then take away pieces, right? Which where we can use Dynamesh and all those good tools that we have in Z. He also does not have the ability to sculpt in symmetry either, which we do inside of ZBrush. Right? Yeah. You can add more clay or add more geometry, right? You can append things in and Dynamesh, right? If needed. Yeah, this is very intuitive in the way that, like, you can think about how we use ZBrush. It's very similar to this. Building in pieces of clay, building it up to take it away, right? That's how this is working. Very cool. We don't necessarily use these scrapers for that kind of technique in Z. Maybe a little bit. That's how he's getting his skin texture. With the eyebrows, right? He outlined them, added clay, and then is scraping away pieces of clay. Crazy, right? Same thing he did with the eyelashes right there. Added more clay, then he's cutting stuff away. Got to get the plug in there, right? Heating up the clay so you can stick it on. Yeah, I think I've seen those videos too, Dominic. This is really, like, I can't stress how much this is similar to what we do in Z, right? Building it up. Okay, I'm maybe adding some clay here, and then I'm going to take it away, right? Smooth things out, scrape things away. I mean, he has a whole shell piece there for a part of the hair. And it's okay if it looks messy at the start as long as you smooth things out and clean it up, right? We have different tools and brushes that we can use to do so. He's just building up that texture there. And he's going to work with that texture he's made to sculpt away certain pieces. Using different tools. Smoothing and slicing things out. And we don't necessarily have to do this in ZBrush. He's adding structure for pieces to be added on. We can just digitally add pieces on. Yeah, it gets insane how detailed, right? But building up to take away. I think that's the biggest sort of takeaway from this, right? Adding pieces of clay in for a base and then using them to take away. That's so cool how he did those folds right there. And there's something so similar we can do in ZBrush, and I'll show you guys. Granted, we're not doing a ton of clothing on these models, but where he puts in these extra rolls of clay like this, smooths down and then cuts away. Like, that's such an easy way to get folds to look good. Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So that's a great question, and I can show that here in just a second. What Dynamesh is going to do is it's going to, as you're working, it's going to keep trying to remesh that model as you're working so that you never really run out of geometry in a sense. It's going to keep trying to remesh that stuff. So cool. I'll just casually put a master sword on there, right? I don't know. I feel like this is a really handy video to watch. Just kind of give you an idea. Very similar process, right? Solid video. Really well shot and made as well. Show you his whole process to get to his final piece, right? Very cool. Okay. So, as we're working today, I want to try to keep that in mind, and I'll use that and talk about that as I'm building and kind of starting my sculpt, okay? So I need to find something really quick. I think I left my phone. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. I just need my phone to use Duo to get into Canvas. 1 second. Okay, let's get into Duo here. Then we'll talk about the assignment here. So like I said, we'll delete this for now. And then I'll just readjust the weight of these assignments. Okay. So, I think I'm going to do this guy. I'm going to grab this one. So here's our little guy. Okay. So we're going to go with this one. So I have a couple different things that I'm going to try to do here in order to start this, right? I'm starting out here with just a sphere. Okay. Take that sphere and move it up a little bit. I'm also going to blow this up just a little bit too. We have a nice sphere here. Okay. Looking at our character, he's kind of built out of a few different pieces. So I'm going to try to do kind of what we talked about and just watched in that video a little bit as I'm sculpting, right? So we'll try to get in here and do a little bit of that. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is take my sphere and I'm going to shape it a little bit, and then I'm going to try to append in excuse me, I'm going to try to append in another piece of geometry. So we'll try it. Or the other way I can do it is by masking off a certain portion and then pulling down a piece of geometry out of this sphere and then dynameshing. So we'll do that. Might be the easier route, but we'll do that here. So first things first is I'm going to get into my move topology brush. So I'm going to flip this around a little bit. So let's go back to draw here, and I'm going to hit B on my keyboard for brushes, and then MT will take me to move topology. And then I can kind of make this brush a little bigger. I'm going to turn off this stuff for a minute. And I'm just going to try to shape out this head a little bit. It's fairly wide. Okay. And he also has those eyes that are kind of sitting there. So I'm going to take first off, I'm going to shrink this brush down a little bit. Go to my standard brush. And I'm just going to try to color in, like push in the area where I feel like those are going to sit to start, right? And I'm just trying to get like a basic idea of where they are. Something like that for right now. Okay. And they obviously do have some good shape around them. I'm gonna switch to my damn standard brush, which kind of carves in a little bit too. I'm not going too crazy. Just trying to carve in a little bit on these areas. Okay. Something like that for a minute is fine. Then I'm going to kind of get that smooth kind of cut down the middle. What's happening there? Might need to be a little bit smaller of a brush. And I'm just getting basic shapes for now. Not trying to go too crazy quite yet, because we'll get in there and really clean it up. But if I can get some base shapes happening, that's what I want. So now I've kind of put together this sort of area, right? But now I need to get this sort of body piece happening, and then I'm going to append in the jaw down here, I think. So let's do that for a sec. So how I'm going to go about doing this is I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard, and this is going to allow me to mask, like paint a mask in here. And if I can paint this mask in, right, then I should be able to just pull an area out of the bottom of this. So I'm going to go over to my masking tools now, over here on the right hand side under masking, and I can do a sharpen mask. So here's the deal. This is not a very high poly mesh right now. So I think I'm going to go to geometry, and I'm going to divide this a couple of times, because right now I'm only at 866 active points. It's pretty small. I have dynamic subdivisions turned on, but if you look at this right now, it's very not that smooth. So I'm going to divide this up a couple of times. I also need to make sure smoothing is on. Oh, it's because I have it masked. That's only going to smooth the areas that I had unmasked. Let's divide this up a couple of times, maybe a couple more. Because I want to get a really clean mask like this, right? See how much cleaner that mask is now that I've done it like this. But I masked too much, so let's try this again. Maybe a smaller brush. I want something like this. If I'm looking at my reference, that piece sort of elongates out of the back of his head from here. So let's erase a little bit of this mask by doing Control-Alt. Then I can take this and just kind of pull this down right? And this is going to look weird for a second. But then I should be able to get my mask off. And I should be able to take a lower res of this now and kind of smooth these things out a little bit. So I can kind of smooth along this area now. But now that I've done that, you can see that my geometry is breaking a little bit, right? Because I did that big pull out of there. So what I want to do is do either a Z remesh or I want to do a Dynamesh. So there's two different things. They both kind of do the same thing. But if I go to Dynamesh, I can show you what'll happen. So Dynamesh is going to mesh it like this, right? Which is not necessarily what we want. Holding shift will allow you to smooth in any brush you're in. Let's actually run a Z remesher here and see if we can get that to work a little bit better. So now we've got a little bit cleaner topology happening here with that Z remesher. If I divide this up, I then have a lot more geometry to work with, and I can start using some other brushes through here to kind of build up this space. So right now I'm using the inflate brush to kind of blow up this area. And I can hold shift to smooth. Yeah, so I just ran a Z remesher and hit same, which keeps the same polygon count it was already at. And then it will remesh for you. Yeah, remesh will fix it. See how they're not stretched anymore? So now it's a lot cleaner. Much easier to deal with, right? So I'm going to run an inflate on the back too here. Kind of get this built up back here a little bit. So that we're getting the right shape that we want out of this guy. And then I'm going to use some more brushes here. So we're kind of getting this shape built out. Then I'm going to use the damn standard brush, which is that slice brush. Right, so BDS. And this is going to allow me to kind of put that detail in where I want it. So I can kind of decide where that line sits now, right? And maybe I don't need that damn standard brush so intense. At least yet. I can just have it kind of cut in a little bit for me. Okay. Cool. So we're getting that to do what we want it to do. Again, we can kind of define some of these areas a little bit as we're working. But we'll get in there and get some more detail in there as well. So okay. So the next kind of idea here is I want to grab that lower jaw piece. And to do that, I'm going to do a little bit of work here. I'm going to take a sphere. So I'm going to append in under geometry, or sorry, subtool, I'm going to go to append right here on the right hand side, and I'm going to bring in a sphere. Okay, so I'm going to append in a sphere. That's going to bring another subtool in here, right under sphere. I can move this around and work with this as much as I want. So I'm going to bring this in, something like this for right now. But I'm actually going to Dynamesh this sphere right off the bat, because I hate the geometry on a normal sphere. So I'm going to go to geometry and go to Dynamesh and just Dynamesh this sphere. Okay. And that's fine for right now. It's going to be a little bit higher poly than I may want to deal with. Let's see. Let's Dynamesh that at like a... little bit lower resolution here. Maybe even a little lower. We could even try to run a remesher on it too. Go half and hit remesh on that sphere. Let's see what it does. That's fine for right now. We'll remesh it again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tools here. So I'm going to go B and go to knife curve here. What knife curve allows me to do is slice certain parts of the mesh off like this, right? So I'm going to take half of that sphere off of there. Okay. And then I'm going to shrink it down. Trying to get it kind of how it looks in my photo a little bit, where the mouth is sitting on the body. It kind of does this deal here. It kind of sits something like this. Right. Okay. And with that there, like that right now, I'm going to take the funny thing is that sort of sits even lower. I mean, the opening's probably right here, but the bottom of his mouth hangs lower than the rest of his torso, so I need to pull up some areas on his body here. So we'll come back. Let's swap over to this one really quickly, and we can use that same knife curve. Okay. So we need something a little bit more like that. And that's really gross. So we might need to remesh this. Okay, that's good. And we'll kind of pull this around. There's a little bit of artistic liberty that needs to take place because we can't see the backside of him. But we do know that his jaw kind of hangs below. So we have this fun sort of deal that's happening here. Something like this. Okay. So now what I can do is Dynamesh. I'm going to Dynamesh these two pieces together. So I'm going to go to Subtool and I'm going to merge these two pieces together. So I'm going to take the top and I'm going to go merge and I'm going to hit merge down. Okay, now that's going to create these as one subtool, but they're still separate, right? If I pull on this, it's not necessarily connected to this other mesh. What Dynamesh does is it kind of welds these two objects together. So if I go to geometry and do Dynamesh, and Dynamesh these two things together, I can do it at a higher resolution. So I could go 512 or something like that and hit Dynamesh. And when I do that, it's going to weld these two objects together now, which is up to you. Whether however you want that to sit is up to you. So I think even though I did do that Dynamesh at the 512, I think I'd rather do it at a lower res and then smooth everything else back up. So we'll keep it at that lower res for right now, because we're already at 2.3 million polygons. So I might even Z remesh this to be a little bit lower res too. So we're here. Let's remesh this now. So we could do half and do a Z remesher and get it to go to half of the polygon count here. And have it remesh this for us. Because I'm at a kind of a high poly count already and I don't want to be. I don't mind going up to a higher poly count once I have all the kind of details in here. So now we're at 240,000 polys, which is not as bad. We could even remesh to be another half size of this. Let's get it to do half of it again. Let's see where it can get us to. See, now we're at 119. I think we could even get lower, but let's try again. It's going to keep remeshing this for us, which is good. Now we're at 50K. That feels pretty good for right now. I'm happy with where that's at. Okay, so now we've done a really great job of getting these kind of pieces together, right? We've built and taken away. We can kind of smooth some things up. I want to try to build the rest of this mouth area out. So I'm going to get my standard brush out. So I'm going to go BST here. And I'm going to start building up this mouth space, right? Which I kind of have. Make this feel like one mouth here. So let's build this up a little bit. Because it was not feeling like one mouth. Okay. Cool. Now I'm going to take either my mask, right? And I'm going to try to do my best to get some of this stuff out of the way here a little bit. So I can then inverse my mask here by control and tapping in the open space. And then I can either push this back in here and trying to get it out of the way, right? I can shrink it down and get it out of the way. Or I can use the alt version of my standard brush. So there's a couple different ways you can kind of take out geometry here. So I can go alt on my standard brush and it starts to carve things out for me. So a couple of different ways you can go about doing that. And then I can smooth, kind of clean up what I've done. We'll probably again use the we will probably use the Dynamesh or Z remesher again here. So now I've carved all that kind of stuff out of there, right? Kind of feels like a cohesive mouth, but I do need to kind of smooth and clean some stuff up here. I may take the opportunity to remesh this again. So take the same level of polygons and just remesh and get it to wrap and clean up the polygons where they're at. Okay. Good. Then we can take the opportunity again to smooth some things out. Now that we have the hole in the face, we can kind of move some geometry around, get this feeling cohesive again. Kind of pushing and pulling some of these around just a little bit. And I can use the inflate on the inside here if I need to add a little bit of geometry back in here. Okay. I don't want to lose the shape of that. So that's feeling good. Now we just need to get him back to being a kind of villainous smile again. That was with the knife rectangle tool or the knife curve tool. Either one will work. Okay, so we've got that going on. I'm gonna use the damn standard brush again, which is that kind of slicey brush that lets me cut in some of this geometry to kind of get this shape going again. I can use my standard brush too to kind of build it up. Okay. Something like that. Okay, next step here is I want to bring and append in the eyes next. So I'm going to go, and you can really do this in any order you want, but it's kind of my next thought process. I'll put the eyes in, and then we'll kind of get the limbs in, and maybe even the, you know, the rest of his, these kind of fin pieces in too. But I'm going to start appending in some more objects now. So I'm going to append in a sphere now for the eye. And we'll bring it in and scale it up. And these eyes are pretty goofy. They're huge. So you can bring them in and really blow them up. Something like that. Can maybe even be a little bigger. Yep. Then I'm going to duplicate this. Oh, cancel, duplicate. Okay, and then when I duplicate an object like this, I can go down to my deformation tab right here. And under deformations, there's a little button that says mirror, and then it has an X, Y, and Z in the top corner. So you can mirror objects over the axis. So now I've got both of my eyes in there. And if I want, I can merge these two together just so they're one subtool. I don't need two separate eye subtools. So I'm going to just merge the eyes down together. And then I can rename stuff too. Let's rename these, call these the eyes. Just try to keep things organized. Let's rename this and call this body. So now I've got my eyes in there. Body's in there. He's looking real goofy, which is good. Okay. So now I'm going to work on kind of cleaning up around the eye area. Really solidifying this look here. But in order to do that, I need to divide up my object a little bit maybe. So, you know, there's a little bit of a thought process here. It could mean that maybe I don't work on this area quite yet. Maybe I get the rest of his body in. Like there's an opportunity for me to put the legs in, right? And the arms. So maybe we do that really quick. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You could append in a sphere and elongate it. There's that 3D brush that I mentioned last class that's really helpful for this type of thing. There's an appendage brush where you can literally just bring in pieces like this, move them around. And rotate stuff, right? So I can bring in legs really easily. Kind of scale them up too. Actually, I'll bring those forward a little bit. Something like this. And then I can actually continue to work with them even after the fact. So I can keep my move topo brush on, and I can kind of move some stuff around to get these where I want them. Okay, so I've got start of the legs in, then I'm going to bring in the actual other piece here. Bring in the other side of the leg. The nice part is I can kind of bring these together. Append is under subtool right here on the right hand side. Subtool, and then append right here in the subtool menu. I'm going to go back a little bit. I like how those are sitting, but I didn't love kind of their positioning in a sense. Okay, that's good. Now let's try this again. I'll reset this. I'm just resetting the pivot. reset the bend on them. Now I can bring this like this. Is kind of what I want. Oh no, the append tool is built, sorry. Oh, this appendage tool. I think it is, it's in the 3D CW brushes. Should be in there. I'm almost positive it's in there. It's under 3D CW. Let's see. Yeah, under this package of brushes, the 3D CW brushes, it should be in here. And it's just called let's see. Under brushes, brush presets, it should be called 3D CW IMM. That's the brush right there. 3D CW _ IMM. And that should be in this folder of the 3D CW brushes. Or that might be the UI. If it is, let me put these brushes in for you too then. Those are all in the announcements page now. In case they weren't in that folder, they should be on the announcements page now. You can grab all those. Okay, there's the other part of his leg. Cool. Then I'm going to Dynamesh those together more than likely with the rest of the body, or split them into groups, like group split. So I might do that first. Let's save really quick. So let's go file, save as, we'll say monster sculpt _01. Put that on the desktop. Okay. Now I'm going to group split. So when I click on this polyline fill, when things are a different color, that means they're a different poly group. And if things are a different poly group, then I can split them by that poly group. So if I go to split groups, can hit OK. That should mean it will pull that leg off and these legs off, hopefully, which is what I wanted. And then I'm going to merge those two down. So the legs are one piece. I'm going to pull the eyes up above the body. So here's my legs. I'm going to Dynamesh these together really quick. For geometry, I'm going to go Dynamesh. So those should be meshed together now. And then I should be able to remesh these together. And take them to a lower poly count. So I can go half and hit Z remesh on those. Then I can smooth them back out again. I think my music stopped. Did that work? Okay, let's do half again. We'll just keep remeshing these down. You do not need to be that many polygons. They're just some legs. Do it again. I could do it one more time. And let's do it one more time. Okay. So we remeshed them down pretty good. Let's turn my smooth intensity down just a little bit. So I'm just remeshing these and smoothing things out. Now I'm going to get in here with my damn standard brush and kind of shape out what that leg looks like. You know, if I can get in there and build that little knee. It doesn't need to be crazy, but just give it some definition through there. Then I can smooth them back up. And in reality, I really don't need to do that. They can look like little chicken legs for right now. It's not a huge deal. Oof, the snow is coming down out there. I see why they wanted us to do this from home today. Okay. All right. Now I need to build some feet on there. And I kind of want to pull these in a little bit more. Give it a little bit more style there. Okay. So that's good. Let's scale these up just a hair. Now I need to build in some feet. So I think I'm going to use that same IMM brush here. And I'm going to build like 3 toes for each feet. Because if you look at my his little deal, they're kind of flat feet. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a half sphere or something. And then we can carve it. Let's do that. Let's pull in a sphere again. We can run through that same tool again with the knife brush. They do something like this. Because then we're going to have to dynamesh these together too. So something like that. Okay. Then I can go back to my knife brush and just slice off half there. If I need to, I can slice off part of the foot too, just to get those to fit properly. I can kind of get the foot in there. And then we can smooth out the foot, divide it up a little bit. Maybe use the standard brush and the move tool a little bit to shape it. So if we go to the move tool here, instead of making it look like a half sphere, BMT, we can try to shape it into more of a foot here. Then we can do with the standard brush, we can build up those toes. And we can take some stuff away too. So BDS for damn standard. You can really kind of slice into those toes a little bit. Then for fun, we can slice off a little bit more. Okay. So just smoothing some of this out. Just trying to make sense of whatever that little frog leg is there. And then we can take that same foot. We could remesh this. I don't want to make it too thin, but okay. inflate around here maybe a little bit. Okay, then we can dynamesh those two together. Actually, let's duplicate that foot. So we'll go to deformations and we'll mirror it over the X. Oh. When you try to mirror like that, it won't mirror if it has higher subdivision levels, so you can just delete the lower out of it. And then go back and hit mirror. It should mirror across just fine. Then I can go back to my subtool and merge all those down. So now the legs and the feet are together, and then we can dynamesh these together to weld them. So that put those feet together now. Which is good. And we can get into more detail with those in a little bit if we want. So we got feet in there. Okay. One last thing. How do you change the ZBrush tool layout? I think having yours would help me understand ZBrush a bit better. I sent you guys the UI that I run. So you can run that the same UI if you want. That's totally fine. It's just Shane Olson's UI from his 3D character workshop class. So you could run the same. You could run the same UI that I've got. That's fine. I sent it to you in the Discord channel, and then there's a quick YouTube video that you can watch in order to use the UI. It's not hard. It's just under the. It's under the Z startup. Under, I think it's config files. No. Somewhere in here. Let's see. I know it's here. I'll find that YouTube video and send it to you guys so that you can update your UI if you want to look like mine. You don't have to, but if you want to, you definitely can. Okay. I think we'll leave it here for today, maybe. I'm just thinking, because we have next week to sculpt and finalize some more sculpting stuff, and I don't want to get too crazy. But hopefully this is helping you understand a little bit more about ZBrush, right? And using appending, other subtools, using Z remesher, using Dynamesh a little bit. We've been going for an hour and a half. So technically, right? You've done your lab time and your lecture time now, so. With no break. So let's call it here for today. I'm going to save out, and then next week we'll finish this little guy. Okay. So let's save him. We'll say O2. And I'll call it there for everybody. So just keep working on your monsters, right? Get used to those tools. We used a few new tools today. We used the knife tools. We used Z remesher quite a few times and Dynamesh several times as well. So we'll just keep pushing and working on these things. And next week we'll keep sculpting, finishing up that sculpt. And then the next week we'll talk about painting. The next couple weeks we'll talk about painting after that. And then we're done with the semester. So we're almost done. So next week or two of sculpting, and then we'll keep working. We'll go to if we're not sculpting, we will be doing painting. So okay, everybody. I will see you guys next week. Have a good one. No worries. Thanks, guys. Be safe out there. The snow's coming down, so be careful, and I will see you guys next week, okay? Let me know if you need anything from me.